Yes, indeed. Welcome, everybody. It is the Press Row Hangout, the 41st Press Row Hangout. I'm very excited. So much to talk about. Lots of stuff happening. It is the last few days before E3, and E3 is probably the best for sports gamers more than any other gamer out there. We'll talk a lot about that. But first, let's introduce our panel tonight, moving from, well, I don't know, because every time I look at this on YouTube,
I
it's
think
the
it's
opposite.
flipped. Yeah.
So I'm going to say moving from right to left on your radio. Up first, the man who is not broadcasting from his hot tub, even though he could if he wanted to,
Yeah.
from Pasta Padre, the great Brian Weedeye. Brian, how are you, my friend?
That was my idea for E3 coverage. For not being at E3 this year, I thought, hey man, really relaxed. I'm still doing a lot of work, but yeah, a bit different than sitting in LA traffic or something, getting back to a hotel that has no Wi-Fi functional, and I'm actually gonna be able to. TJ, you've been like a statue there. I'm impressed. What is this all about?
I'm just waiting for the introduction.
Oh, okay.
Well, speaking of that introduction, up next we have a man who is coming to you live deep in the swamps of Jersey. From That Sports Gamer, Mr. TJ Lowerman. TJ, welcome to the show.
Rich Grisham, I am so happy to be here pre-E3, pre my 30th birthday. We get to talk about some UFC, some FIFA. I'm pumped! Video games are great. Sports games are the best.
It only took you 4 seconds to mention that it's your birthday? Really?
If this party goes long, it'll be birthday day.
How old are you going to be?
I will be 30. And
Okay,
then all the youthful exuberance will go out of me.
Dude, it's all going downhill,
down.
buddy.
I'm going to make a new rule that if you are over 21 and an adult, which one equals the other, you do not get to mention that it's your birthday like you're 70.
I take it to the extreme, by the way. I go on Facebook and I change the birthday so that nobody knows. I don't want to hear about it. I hate it. It's the worst day of the year for me. I hate
Guys, I want all the tweets tomorrow. I want everybody to tweet at Owen Good to say that he should tweet at me about my birthday tomorrow.
Birthdays for adults, come on, please. Stop it. Stop it already. My goodness.
I think I'm ready to have a midlife crisis and go buy an Xbox One.
For his birthday, I think TJ wants a higher clout score based on...
Oh my god. If I can get like a 65, I'd be so excited.
I hover right in that 70 range. I'm like, come on, go back up 72. Come on.
It's like, what do I got to say? What do I got to tweet a picture of some game and then we'll be good.
All right. Well, I am Rich Grisham from the internet, Games Radar, the Press Row Podcast, Operation Sports. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Like I said, lots of good stuff going on. I've been excited. I've been thinking about the show all day. A lot of people want to talk about a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about UFC. We're going to talk about FIFA World Cup Ultimate Team. We're going to talk about E3, obviously. We're going to talk about new screenshots from several games. We're going to talk about some tweets that our friends and listeners of the show have gotten to. But first, what everybody wants to know about, and when I say everybody, I mean at least 50 different people have asked me in the last hour, what do you think about the UFC demo? So let's talk about it. The UFC demo is out now on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. I think it came out on the Xbox One first and then eventually made its way to the PlayStation 4. I have played it. It is gorgeous. It really... I don't know that it screams next gen, but it certainly screams new game, new franchise, new excitement, a lot of good stuff going on. We'll start with you, Brian Weedeye, your initial impressions of the big UFC demo.
Yeah, I mean, obviously first the visuals you have to note it looks great and it moves great and it feels great. As to the actual gameplay, which is kind of more central to what I care about and what a lot of people care about, I think it's a bit of a letdown. It's just we've had this debate on the last Hangout, actually, I believe, and that was, can you do a sim MMA game? And I don't think this is a sim game, and I've spoken to a lot of people who are more knowledgeable than I am on UFC. I'm a fan. I watch it pretty often, but I don't know all the details or terms. And I spoke to a lot of them, and actually they're fairly disappointed with it too. I think the interesting thing is that they're tailoring this game sort of to a more casual crowd, but it's the same crowd or at least they're marketing it to them, with the Bruce Lee and the way the game plays not being really a sim, kind of being more of a fast-paced fighting game than a mixed martial arts game. It's it's just they're targeting this casual group, hoping to bring them in on the visuals, hoping to bring them in on kind of the fun. It is fun, but the fast-paced gameplay with big hits and big kicks and all this. But that's also the same crowd that tends to get overwhelmed with complex controls, which is inevitable in an MMA game. You can't avoid it. There's just too many options at your disposal in any given moment that you need all those different things to be mapped in different ways and contextually to play out certain ways. And that can be overwhelming. And one of the most common things I heard back from the demo, and not necessarily from the people who've played all the THQ games or the people who played EA MMA, it's just that there's a tutorial in the demo. It does a good job of kind of telling you the basics, but once you get into the fight, all that information kind of just disappears. And it happened with me too. I got in a few of my first fights, I got taken down to the ground, and then I just went blank on what am I supposed to do to get out of this.
Yeah.
So the game also has to be you have to be able to enjoy it while you're failing, and there is partially, I think, that sense in there. But then I heard from some people that they're already dissuaded by their experience early on, because they sure didn't make it easy. I mean, the difficulty level in this demo is set to easy, but it's not easy. I mean, I got beat probably the first 6 times I played. I finally won 2 out of the last 3 or so that I played. And it's not easy because the way the CPU fights, they're always on you. And so with John Jones, I wanted to keep my distance. I wanted to use my legs, keep him at distance. And I couldn't do that because he's always charging on you. So I think the aggressiveness of the CPU also adds into to the struggles that people are having at first, because you can't really fight the way you want to fight necessarily. And so as a whole, I think that it's an interesting situation. The way they want to straddle arcade and sim, it's the same way they kind of did. The same team that did Fight Night, it's their same philosophy essentially. I don't know how that's going to resonate with people at this point.
Well, you bring up about 40 different points that I want to talk about.
I tried to bring up as many points as possible so that it would be difficult to refute any of them.
So I want to discuss several of those, but before we do that, I obviously want to go to you, TJ. TJ, give me your initial impressions of the UFC demo.
Yeah, I had pretty much same experience as Brian. I went through the tutorial first before I went into a match just to try to figure out what it is I'm doing. I think maybe the problem with the tutorial was that it might have just been too long, because I think after around the 10th step, I kind of stopped really caring, and that's pretty much where they teach you the whole ground game and the takedowns and stuff. So actually, I'm fairly proficient a fighter, apparently, standing up, just going heads up with a guy. Apparently, if you block a punch, you can usually just jump on him and get some good shots in there. It's very, very Fight Night-esque in the hand-to-hand part of it. But then once you get taken down, I felt like even after going through the tutorial a second time, specifically going over all the ground stuff, it just felt like really slow, which I know UFC is kind of like that. Sometimes they'll just be sitting on top of each other and just like angling to do something, but in a video game that's not really fun, and it's not really arcadey or sim, it's just kind of, what am I supposed to do here? And I found myself just holding down one of the shoulder buttons and flopping the stick around, and my guy would be flopping like a fish, and I'd throw every once in a while I'd throw a submission on, but I really wasn't sure like what I actually did to get it in there. Even when I knew, hold down R1 and take it from 3 o'clock to noon and do a move, and it would kind of do something. I felt like that stuff, they got to explain that a lot better. And from what I've heard from people back on Twitter, in the full game there's going to be like a more advanced tutorial, and mini games teach you all that stuff. So I feel like my first impression is this is kind of how the NBA 2K series has been for me, where it's like I can see this is a good game, I just can't get my head wrapped around the control system yet to be able to be proficient at the game. So hopefully that comes with these new tutorials and stuff in the retail version.
Well, a few things. Number one, this is obviously it's a demo, right? This is not the full game. It's meant to give you a taste of the game. Another thing that struck me personally, because I played it, and very early on, I realized that I was out of my league. Being on easy might be easy for some, but for somebody like me, not easy at all. But that's okay. What struck me about this game is that it is extremely technical, and I think that's actually a really good thing. Because the people who really want a UFC game and are really going to play this game, that's exactly what they want. They want to have all of these different types of options. They want to have multiple types of takedown options, multiple types of takedown defense options, multiple types of submissions. All of the different things that when you play even that basic tutorial, there's like 18 sections of that. To me, it's completely overwhelming. Like I played through that thing, and by the fourth or fifth, I'm like, all right, now we're starting to get out of my comfort zone. And by the 18th, I had no idea what I was doing. But I've done a reversal on this. I used to complain a lot about the complexity of like the NBA 2K controls and things like that. But I mean, with UFC, it is such a technical sport that unless you really do what they are apparently going to do, which is make it extremely complex, and where to be successful you're going to really have to learn the nuances of the game, I don't actually think there's any other way that they could have gone. Because if you make it a button masher, then that's completely misrepresentative of the sport. And there's already plenty of fighting games that are button mashers. So what struck me ultimately is that this game is clearly not for me. Like, I am not a UFC fan in real life, and this game will not make me a UFC fan. However, once I started playing it, I can completely see how if you are a fan of UFC, the sport, and you are willing, and if you spend the $60 and are willing to sit down and learn this game and not just try to spam the buttons, it seems to me like there is a tremendous amount of reward if you are willing to make that kind of investment. Brian, am I off my rocker, or do you think that's what they're going for?
Well, there can be. The problem is, like I said, the people I've spoken to who know more about the intricacies tell me that it's flawed in a lot of ways. Now, having all those options at your disposal, yeah, I mean, that's great. And the more you play, in theory, the more you play, the more you'll get comfortable with it, and your reaction time will get better, and all of that. You have to get to that point, of course, to get that sense of achievement. But I mean, the way you just look at what the fighters are doing contextually, how they're doing a lot of stuff like these specific guys, and it's not even just this fight, but some of the videos that have come out of the gameplay, and they're doing things that they don't do in real life. John Jones doesn't do this. I'm told, like, John Jones doesn't do this. He wouldn't do this, or whoever wouldn't do what you just saw in the video there, that type of slam takedown or something. Like, he'd never do that. Or up close against each other doing these spinning kicks and all this stuff. Like, they would never do that, and you'd only maybe see that kind of strike attempt once in a fight, maybe. Mm-hmm. But in this game, you see it like once every few seconds. And so that's an issue, and the issue with that is not so much that giving you the ability to perform those moves, but instead it's not punishing you for doing it. Like, you should be, there should be more to it than fatigue. If you're doing all these fancy moves that you really shouldn't be doing, you should get knocked out for it.
I had a couple times. Yeah, I had a couple times where I would do the high leg kick, and it would just land on the guy's shoulder.
Yep.
And he would just kind of like look at me and kind of move back a little bit, which I assume if you're in a UFC fight and a guy's leg is on your shoulder, that's pretty much the point where you win, because you just destroy him from there on.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Some of that seems a little crazy.
Well, joining us from the wilds of Oklahoma, the world's biggest Seattle Supersonics fan, the executive editor of Operation Sports, Chris Sanner. Chris, how are you, my friend?
I'm sorry, guys. I was late. I've actually been working on trying to figure out the UFC controls. It's been about a 36-hour process. I've made no real headway at this point. I will report back to you at the next podcast how far I've made it.
Oh my, good to know. So obviously, Mr. Sanders, you can tell we've just begun the show by discussing the big UFC demo. I assume you have played it. I also know that you have been monitoring the traffic and the comments from the Operation Sports community. So let's start with what are your initial impressions, and then what are the impressions of the Operation Sports community?
Actually, I'll start with the OS community because that's what sticks out at me most because I'm not a huge MMA fan. But a lot of guys in our recent poll and just from the general vibe really were turned off by the demo to the point where a lot of people have responded to one of our polls saying they're not going to actually, I guess, buy the game now thanks to it. They were on the fence leaning yes, but now they're actually in totally no. And that's actually a lot bigger part of the audience than I expected. So that's a really, really interesting thing that I did not expect coming out of this demo. Me personally, as a casual UFC guy, I mean, I just alluded to it. My goodness, the controls. I'm definitely not the person if you're a hardcore MMA fan that you want to talk to about this game because there are so many controls. I would venture to guess there are a few hundred possible control combinations in this game, and it is just. Trying to keep up with that and trying to figure it out is a chore. So I'm going to do my best because it looks like I had a lot of fun playing it, but trying to figure out the intricacies of that control scheme is going to take some time.
You know, one of the things that a lot of people do talk about and complain about in sports are controls. We mentioned NBA 2K14. What's funny is I play that game a lot. And I still only use maybe 20 to 25% of the controls, and I feel like I do know exactly what I want to do when I'm playing the game. Madden is befuddling to many people, to nobody on this panel, but to many people it's befuddling. I mean, the controls in the sports games that we have today, no matter what they are very difficult for anybody but who is a fan of the sport to understand. And as I said a few minutes ago, I'm not a fan of the sport of UFC or MMA. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't even really like boxing anymore. I think the difference is I still do like a good boxing game. And what I was wondering about was if the UFC demo would sort of perhaps introduce the sport to me in a way that I perhaps have not had it introduced to me or had it presented to me, and maybe the real game will, because the full game has a whole career mode where it does bring you along, and I'm as somebody who's going to be buying the game, I'm hoping that it does that. So again, I think the issue of controls, I don't think they could have gone in any other direction because there are so many different types of ways to battle your opponent in this game. So it sounds like, Brian, the feedback that you've gotten is that some people have been dissuaded from the game. Chris, it sounds like. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. It's a weird balance because like I said earlier, it's like the game is designed to target a more casual crowd, but the more casual crowd they're not going to take the time to learn these controls. It's going to be overwhelming. But what I've seen is a lot of feedback, like I said, that it's not very realistic. It's more on the arcade side of things. But then I've also seen some people saying they're just having a lot of fun with it, and it's really on a technical level. It's an impressive game, just in graphics and animations and all this. It's a good display for the new systems, and so there are a lot of people having fun with it. But there's just as many, if not more, who seem discouraged by it.
So I guess I'll go around the table. A lot of people draw correlates from the UFC demo to the Fight Night demo on the last generation. TJ Lauerman, did the Fight Night demo, was that a demo that made you want to play? Did you purchase Fight Night because of it? And ultimately, was that a demo representative of the game in the way that you feel UFC may be representative of the final game here?
Yeah, I always loved the Fight Night game, so that demo made me know that I was going to be getting it. But the UFC one is very polarizing because I easily, after playing it, could have said, okay, yeah, this demo just shows this game's going to be a little bit too hard for me. I'm not going to pick it up. But, like, from my point of view, I said this demo it's just giving me the top layer, and I want to dig deeper and get into this and get better. So I am going to pick up the game, and it kind of pushed me towards that. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, yeah, the demo is a little too hard. I think I'm going to sit back on the game. And you can even tell that because I'm going to get the retail release of the game, not the digital version, just in case I never learn how to use controls like NBA and want to trade it in.
So, Chris Sanner, are you going to throw yourself into this game? Because this is the only sports game between E3 and Madden. So, because of that, do you think you will give this game more of a chance? Will you say, you know what, this is one of those games where I'm going to learn the sport, I'm going to learn the controls, I'm going to do it? What do you think?
You know, this is a game where I think, when you look at it, I got into the sport of soccer, and I've learned a lot about the sport of hockey because of EA Sports games in both of those. Like, seriously, I was watching the Stanley Cup, and I actually knew the rules. I actually knew what was going on. It made sense what was going on in the game to me. And I actually enjoyed it, Rich. I know I've made jokes about hockey this whole time, but I have enjoyed every minute of watching that game.
The NHL is amazing.
Yeah, I'm serious. It's a sport I really need to get into. But I don't know, this game, the reason why I like FIFA and the reason why I like NHL and the reason why I was able to come along in those games, even though I didn't understand them, is that the controls were simple enough to where I could play until I figured it out. This game, I'm really afraid that's not going to be possible. It's going... I don't know what you could do with it either, because there is a lot. I mean, historically, like, EA has tried to do these really simple button controls for novices, like, one button controls, and that's just crazy. That's not possible. It's stupid. But there's got to be some kind of a happy medium here where you can have something more accessible and something not. So I don't know if I'm going to get into this game or not, because I am absolutely still in love with the show. I'm playing at least two games a day, 2 series a day with that, and I'm making huge progress. But I am seriously thinking about buying it. I try not to buy games I'm not going to play, even though I technically get reimbursed for any sports game. I try not to do that just because I don't want to spend $60 and not use it at all. So I'm curious about what I'm going to do in 2 weeks. I'm still up in the air on it.
So, Brian Widow, you've talked quite a bit about sort of the community reaction in your polls and stuff. But let's talk about you and UFC. You like UFC. Mm-hmm. Do you like the experience of playing this demo so far?
I don't know how to answer that. I want to like it. I think I see the potential in it, and it's kind of frustrating that they've gone more towards the arcade side of things, because I think if you look at the THQ games, no one would consider them really accessible. But the first THQ game was a smash hit, huge hit, even with people who weren't necessarily UFC fans. And it wasn't because it was an arcadey type of game. It was that it had these brilliant moments. And I don't get the sense that this game is going to have those, where even if you're not as good, you can pull off a win, and the satisfaction from that and just the thrill of those moments was so great. And the UFC game now, I'm not sure it has that, because you even have the awkward knockouts where the guy just stands there, he doesn't jump on him, the ref doesn't jump in to stop it, they just all stand there, and then he'll pause a little bit, and then maybe a celebration starts or something. I mean, it doesn't look natural, and so it really takes you out of those moments. So it's tough. I want to like it a lot because I want to spend a lot of time with it, but playing the CPU, and then I can only imagine if the CPU fights like that, what it's going to be like online against other people. If you can get away with fighting in that manner, it's going to be sloppy. So it's a little discouraging, but it can still be a lot of fun.
TJ Lauerman, have you personally enjoyed your experience playing the UFC demo so far?
I'm coming around on it. It wasn't that fun in the beginning, but now I'm starting to get the handle of it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because now I'm trying to get guys in submissions, and we're just kind of hugging a lot. But when we're standing up fighting, I'd really like it.
I mean,
I'm gonna create Tank Abbott and just try to pulverize people in a fight and not even.
Sorry, you can't do it. There's no creative fighter.
There's got to be a beard somewhere I can wear.
Oh, okay.
so Chris Tanner, are you a UFC fan at all? A lot, a little bit, or not at all?
I have seen events, usually in a group setting. I have a general grasp of what's going on, but just as far as being a hardcore guy about the strategy behind the fights and such, it's just something that's never appealed to me, even though I really want to like this game. I mean, I can see where the appeal is. I can see where the appeal of creating your fighter and such is, but I am definitely the epitome of a casual UFC fan who watches 4 or 5 events a year, and that's about it.
So I don't know what I am, because I don't watch any of these events. I remember it was about a year ago, and there was a big UFC fight on Fox, and everybody was saying this is the big one, this is the championship match or whatever, and there was a lot of hype, and the whole thing was over in like 9 or 12 or 15 seconds. I don't even know what happened, and it just, for whatever reason, has never appealed to me, and I'm with you, Chris. I want to enjoy this game, and I actually, I downloaded it, I played the demo, I played through the tutorial, I played a couple of fights. It became apparent to me very quickly that I really have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't like that feeling. Like, I really, and the game explained itself to me, but within the first 10 seconds, I'm like, okay, I'm hitting the punch, I'm hitting the kick, I'm hitting the alternate so I can punch and kick, but then once I start clenching, I forget everything, and I'm just spamming the buttons, and that's obviously not the way to play the game. It's not the way the game was designed. It's not the way that the people that I know who like the game, like guys like Mike Suzik and guys like Corey Andrus, who, they are clearly UFC guys, and they understand what's going on, and they're really enjoying the demo, and they're talking about all the different aspects of the submissions and the takedowns and stuff like that. So it's not meant for me, but I don't think there's any way that it could ever have been meant for me, and I don't hold that against it. So I guess my last question to go around the table, and I'll start with you, TJ, what should they or could they have done to this demo to appeal more to you, if anything, or is this what you wanted it to be?
The only thing I really needed more was just some more description around how to do the ground and pound stuff, the takedowns and.
Got a little something on your little.
Rich, I'm a growing man. You never know what's going to happen when you start getting this old. Hair grows out of places you've never even seen before. But yeah, if they could have done something, I don't know. If there's mini games that teach you how to do some of the submission stuff, so if that was here, maybe that would have helped more than just the little tutorials they put in. But I mean, my concern with this game from day one has been, are the controls going to be something that are usable by a normal person?
No, they're not. Everybody knows that. And I don't even think it's possible to do that. I'm not saying that in a snarky way. I really don't see any way that they could do it. I mean, if you want to offer something even close to resembling what a real-world MMA experience is, you have to give a lot of control options. And, if you make this RBI baseball, the new RBI baseball, that works for nobody. I don't see any direction they could have gone.
Yeah, but you have to find a happy medium so that you sell enough copies to keep the series alive.
Well,
if it's going to be super technical, you're going to have a problem.
I think actually the medium is kind of, the happy medium is kind of what they went for, and I think it's not going to satisfy either crowd completely. I think you're going to have a tough time drawing in casual people to a game this complex, and then you're kind of alienating the more hardcore people at the same time by making it not exactly a sim experience.
It's interesting. I mean, we will see, right? The sales figures will obviously dictate it. Again, like what's funny to me is as I played it, I realized the less it appeals to me, the more of a good job I think that they ultimately did. So, Brian, what do you think they could have or should have done with the demo? Not the full game, but with this demo. Is it what it should be, or what should they have done if not?
It should have been easier, and I say easier in the sense that you have the CPU coming at you, like I said earlier, all the time. They're coming right at you the whole time. You have no time to think. There is no ability to kind of just reset yourself and go in and battle the way you want to go at it. Instead, what you have is the CPU pushing the action the whole time, and it just gets you into situations where you go blank. And so I think it should have been easier. Like, that's an easy setting, but everyone who was on my stream the first time I was playing it was like, get ready, the CPU is going to kill you right off the bat, and it was true. And I'm not sure, it shouldn't have been to the extent where you just win easily, but the pace should have been slowed down. That's one of the biggest problems, is the pace is just too hectic compared to what a real fight is like. Plus, you have the accelerated clock in there, so there's really no reason not to just go all at it for the 3 minutes or whatever it equates to.
But I mean, in a game like MMA, where you do have so many different things going on, I mean, wouldn't you expect to get pummeled until you figure it out? Like, let me ask you this question, Brian. How many fights have you had?
10 plus. So,
how have you,
no, it must be way more than that, actually, because some of them didn't go all that long.
So how have you done in the last 3 fights versus the first 3 fights?
Yeah, the last 3 I did, I won 2 out of the last 3, and so I am getting better, but it's you have to block a lot, and you just get put into this defensive position, or you slug it out, which is not really how these fights tend to go in real life. Right. You don't just stand there in the middle of the cage and just trade punches back and forth. Maybe there are some fights like that, and those are some memorable ones. But for the most part, that just doesn't happen. That's not the way these fights go. And so you're kind of forced into that situation where you do have to just swing over and over and over, or you get to the ground and you kind of forget what you're doing down there, and it's just yeah. So for me, it was just the aggressiveness of the CPU, because it gives you no opportunity to take a breath. And these guys do sometimes regroup in these fights, and you don't have the opportunity to do that in this demo.
Chris Sanner, what could they or should they have done to make this demo more appealing to you and or the people in the Operation Sports community that were dissuaded by the game, if anything?
I think the one thing they could have done, and I actually think this would be good, it interrupts the flow of the fight, so to speak, but actually having some kind of a where you can turn it off and on, obviously, but have a tooltips kind of thing that can pop up every now and then that lets you know, hey, you're in this situation, or just keep reminding you of what you should be doing, so to speak. I don't know how you do that, or even have it up in the upper right hand, or I guess there's a icon or whatever up there, but have it somewhere where it just pops out, say, hey, what are you doing here? Try this.
Yeah, just like, hey, dumbass, you're being submitted. You better push a direction on your stick.
Yeah, I'm 4 fights in right now, and I am 4-0 right now. I have no idea either. Like, I have people in the
4-0?
Yeah, I've literally not lost yet, and I have people in the other room that watched my first 2, and I was like, I started the first fight, and I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I actually skipped the tutorial too. I'm that person.
It's fitting. That's fitting.
So I literally got in there, and I figured out that the I guess the icon buttons are to punch and kick. So that's what I did. That's what I've done my first 3 fights. Then I went through the tutorial and did the 4th one, and I tried to get on the ground, but that didn't work, and I got out of that and just went back to punching and kicking. So that's probably not an endorsement, considering I thought it was on easy this whole time. I was like, well, this is obviously on easy. And I guess since it's on normal, it's probably not an endorsement for the game's realism, but something to hold people like mine hand through it to where we know what the heck we're doing. Because I'm telling you, I enjoyed it. Like, when I won, it was very thrilling. It was very oh my gosh, did I just win that? That was awesome. But at the same time, it's like, I have no idea how I did that, and that's not a good place to be, for sure. So, in the OS community, I feel like a lot of them are the same way. I feel like there's a lot of people that are really just not happy with how just complicated it is, or how not deep enough it is. There's both of those sides of it, where people are either mad because the controls are impossible to figure out, or they're mad because the game just doesn't feel realistic to them. And that's just how do you please both of those? I don't know how. I don't even know if it's possible unless you come up with options, but that's even a development chore all to itself.
Well, I don't think I've ever felt this way about a demo where I thought it was an excellent technical demonstration of a game that I will never play. So, but that's me and that's UFC by no means a representation of the quality of the game. All right, let's move on. Up next, the FIFA World Cup Ultimate Team is here. The real World Cup is only a couple weeks away. Thank goodness. I can't wait for that. It's been like almost a month since the Premier League, or at least it feels like it, and I'm having a soccer I need some big-time football.
I seriously thought you were going to say it's felt like almost 4 years since the last World Cup, to which I was going to say, that is true, Rich.
And, hey, the owners of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One have received a couple of updates to their game. We got the new World Cup kickoff mode, which is interesting, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And we've also got the long-promised and finally delivered FIFA World Cup Ultimate Team mode. So we'll start with our Ultimate Team guru, TJ Lowerman. Thumbs up, thumbs down, what's the deal?
Thumbs, up in this area, not down, not sideways, but like a little bit to the up. They did some really interesting stuff in this. I was pretty surprised by most of it, because your coins from the regular World Cup mode, interesting, actually come over, so you can spend that in here, but there's not really anything to spend it on rather than packs, so you're not really going to be doing that. But some of the nice stuff they have, if you do buy packs in this mode, since all these players are limited to this mode, if you do buy packs here, you get a pack in the regular mode, so if you end up spending money like some people do, I mean, I don't endorse that, but if you want to drop $20 on a pack and go open a bunch of packs, you can do that. But yeah, some of the weird things they did. Rich, what are you doing?
That thing just flashes out of control.
It ain't me, man. It ain't me.
It's a Google thing.
Yeah, one of the weird things is you can only have one squad now,
yes,
as opposed to regular Ultimate Team mode where you can usually have like 10 and you can buy more through the EA Sports Football Club store, which is kind of not good because I do want to have a national team for a country, but the way they have the chemistry, it's by confederation and actual country. So I want to have like a European team and also an American team. But you can't really do that without swapping out all your cards. And there's no auction house, so if you have a bunch of bad cards and you get better players, you're just going to drop them because you're not going to make another squad for that country that they're on because you can't make more squads, and swapping all that out is kind of a pain. But it is nice that stuff like the contracts, the position change cards, and all the coin transfer over into the regular version of the game. So that's a bonus.
It's really interesting because I've played some Ultimate Team across different, franchises. Not a lot, but I've played some. And this feels to me like a weird hybrid of Ultimate Team. Number one, when you start the Ultimate Team, you have to choose your country and then you name your team. So I chose the United States and named them the Von Traps because if anybody who listens to Men in Blazers, that's how they refer to Jurgen Klinsmann and his United States side. And then my entire card pack was a whole bunch of people, none of whom were from the United States, like not even one. And they were all terrible. They're all in like the low 60s. And a couple of them were from the same confederation, and you have to sort of line up your match up your lineups to try to get some decent chemistry, thank you, between the different players.
If you knew of a good guide for chemistry, this would be a really good time to plug it.
There's one on Games Radar that was written by a couple of guys that I think are pretty handsome fellas. So I did that, and the team is terrible. And so then I went to go buy a pack or two. And when I say buy, I mean with my in-currency coins. And I didn't have nearly enough to buy even one pack. And the way that they have FIFA Ultimate Team menus sort of intertwined with the regular Ultimate Team menus, I found myself back in regular Ultimate Team without wanting to be. And it became very clear to me that if I wanted to do anything in the FIFA Ultimate Team to get more players to make my team better, I was going to have to play a lot, like a significant amount.
After every game or just the games you win, because who loses? You get a free card too.
Right. So
I've seen some people get like Iniesta in those cards, so you can get good players that way.
So I played a game, and I had a draw because the game was a single-player mode against the United States, the real United States, who had my fake U.S. team with no Americans against the real United States team with all the Americans. And it was a draw. And then I got a card of a player that I already had. And then I couldn't add him to my squad because he was a duplicate, and I couldn't sell him back because I got no coins. And at that point, I'm like, what's going on here? So, Brian Weedeye, have you played any of the World Cup Ultimate Team mode? If you have, do you like it, and what has your experience been?
Conceptually, I like it. It was compelling enough to me that I wanted to play it, and that I was going to spend money on it, actually, and then I played the games, and I did not want to play anymore after that because the gameplay is all... Hold on a second.
Brian, you need to get that dog, man. He's begging for you.
My goodness.
That's not even my dog. That's my sister's dog. She was on her honeymoon, and so now I've got 2 dogs over here, and it's nuts.
See, downfall of getting a house.
They don't enjoy each other's company.
So I was saying I wanted to spend money on it. Then I played the games, and the gameplay is just... It felt like I was playing the 360 version of World Cup or of FIFA 14, and I don't know why. And I thought I was crazy, possibly at first, and maybe I was imagining it. But then I started getting tweets from people and emails from people saying, "What is up with the gameplay here?" And it's just it's sloppy. It's really sloppy. I love FIFA 14 on the PS4. I mean, I played a lot of it, and I immediately sensed that something was off, like they ported the gameplay over or something, which just seems absurd to me. But I got a lot of people telling me that independently too, that they thought that. So
are you playing with your Ultimate Team or with the actual country team?
With just I'm playing playing the games in the World Cup version of Ultimate Team, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main problem with that is your players are terrible.
Yeah.
And you have no chemistry, which in FIFA is kind of the thing that makes them all magically play better together. So I'm wondering how much of that is.
So yeah, that was part of my first thought was, is this because the players on the field, their ratings are low? Is it because of this or this? And I'm just not sure that that's the answer, because defensively, I mean, I played a ton of FIFA 14 games online on the PS4, and I never have come across just the best defensive tactic for people being just run into your players, because that's what it is. They just run into your players, which causes the ball to go loose, and it's just because there are so few fouls called. And it's just a tactic it's so prevalent in these World Cup games that I was playing, and I don't remember that being an issue with all the games I played in the normal FIFA. So it was just like the AI even seemed dumber, like my teammates and stuff. I don't know what was going on with that, and so it really discouraged me. And then after I played a handful of games, I said, I don't think I want to play this anymore. And I had wanted to put a lot of time into it. I wanted to buy packs. I was ready to buy packs. Then I said, all of a sudden, these games are just not fun to me. I don't know what was going on with that, but that's my the way I assessed the game at the start. And then I had a lot of people telling me the same, that they're huge FIFA fans, and it's bizarre what happened to the gameplay there.
Chris Tanner, while Brian conducts illegal dogfights in his house, maybe you can let us know what the Operation Sports community thinks about the next generation FIFA World Cup Ultimate Team options.
They echo those sentiments completely. They just feel the gameplay is a little sloppier. It just feels off, and I wonder why. I don't know why that is, but there seems to be a little bit of disappointment about that for sure. That the game just does not feel like the same game they've been playing on the PlayStation 4. And I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum about how good FIFA 14 was on the PlayStation 4. I haven't got a chance to play it. I've just been within the show and everything else going on. I haven't had time to actually dive into it, but it doesn't sound too encouraging to hear that it plays a little, as Brian said, and I've actually saw a couple of people tweet us about it, that it just feels like it's a last-gen game somehow packaged within the next-gen framework. I don't know how that's even possible.
You know, one of the things that TJ Lowerman has taught me, one of the best things about Ultimate Team is the auction house, and that's why this feels like such a weird variation, because you don't have the ability to make your team better except for buying card packs as opposed to going out and bidding for players. And one of the fundamental ways that the game is made interesting, they took it out. TJ, why do you think they went in that direction? I mean, you're somebody who spends a lot of time playing this kind of mode. What do you think they were doing with this? What are they trying to make happen?
I think they were just trying to keep it simple for everybody and not get it crazy. And at least this way, you have a better chance of getting a Messi or a Ronaldo on your team. And if they put the auction house in, I'm sure the prices for those players would skyrocket, and a normal player would never actually get to use them. So I kind of like that they took it out for this mode.
So where are you right now with it, TJ? Are you all in? Are you playing it regularly? Are you sort of, playing it occasionally when you're not playing in our MLB The Show online league and League of Legends, or are you out on it? Where are you with it?
No, man, I'm trying to get a game or two in every night, and I think I just got out of the group stage. I think I'm into the second stage now with my team.
And what country are you?
The Netherlands, Rich.
Wait,
Holland up. We're going to win this whole thing.
Is it Holland and the Netherlands? And who are the Dutch? I mean, come on, tell me here. What's going on?
Tinkerbell is from Neverland. Netherlands is a country. North and South Holland are counties in said country. That's why it's very confusing.
Clearly.
It's like saying you're from, I don't know what county you're from. It's like if you said I was from Bergen instead of New Jersey. It's kind of the same thing. But don't call it Holland in the Netherlands. They'll get very offended. I must remember that for my trip there later this year.
Well, I'm going later this year, too, so I will also remember that. Brian, are you out? Brian, are you out on World Cup Ultimate Team, or are you still going to dabble a little bit more, do you think?
I'm out at this point. I just said the games are just...
Oh.
And it's crushing to me because I wanted to play that with World Cup coming up, and I can go back to the 360 World Cup game if I want, but the appeal of either one at this point, I'm not sure it's the draw is strong enough for me.
Yeah, and not being able to play your friends is kind of...
Yeah, that was one other point I had made. It's just, I mean, I would have loved to take my team even if they suck on and play, on there and play TJ, I guess.
Well, you can beat me anytime you play me. For crying out loud.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Chris Sander, you think you're going to dip your toe in, or are you, based upon what you're hearing here tonight and from the community, you're going to avoid FIFA World Cup Ultimate Team?
Well, for journalistic integrity, Rich, I'm going to have to check it out at some point, just so I have an informed opinion. But if I was just a regular Joe hearing this, I would be very discouraged about my prospects of checking it out, especially if I was just a regular Ultimate Team player. I think it would be something where I would probably skip. I think what I would want more as a customer probably would have been just a straight-up World Cup mode, honestly.
Well, speaking of the World Cup mode, they did add all of the teams in a World Cup sort of a kickoff mode where you can play any of the 32 teams in the main stadium in Brazil with the World Cup rosters. Not the most up-to-date rosters yet, although I'm presuming, we don't know it, but I'm assuming or presuming that they will be updating them. I've played a few of the World Cup kickoff modes, and while it's really almost, well, no, it's not almost, it is. It's a tease, right? Because you walk into the stadium, they have the World Cup there, they have the actual World Cup trophy there, they have the confetti coming down, they have you lined up, it's a big event, and then the announcers say, yep, it's a nice friendly, it's an international friendly, it doesn't mean anything. And they have a lot of the commentary that you hear in the regular World Cup game for the friendlies leading up to the actual competition. So, like, in the game, you're like, wow, this is cool, it's nice, it feels exciting and important, and then it's diminished. But the game itself, when you're playing the United States, for example, as I did against Portugal, and then Ghana, and then Germany, I played the group, is really fun. Now, again, the fact that it's not counted, it's not organized in a World Cup mode is definitely a bummer, but as a totally free upgrade to the game, it's hard for me to complain it because I've now played 3 games, and I can see myself, especially as the World Cup is going on, hopping in and playing some of these games, particularly against some of my friends. Chris, Brian, or TJ, we'll start with you, TJ. Have you tried the kickoff mode at all with the World Cup?
I played a couple minutes, and I'm excited. I can't wait for the actual tournament stuff to open up so we can start playing that. But I didn't give that my full attention. Ultimate Team, Rich, come on, Ultimate Team.
Brian, have you dabbled in the kickoff mode at all?
I looked at it and saw the outdated rosters and stuff, but I mean I have the complete version of that on the actual experience on the 360 now. So no, I didn't really have interest in getting into that there.
Chris, have you played it, or have you heard anything from the OS community about it?
I think the people who wanted it, this is tough. There's a lot of people who wanted it who never got it, who wanted the World Cup experience, who just got the current gen version of FIFA World Cup, and that's me included. And I haven't really checked it out, mainly because why settle for a fake when you can get the real thing, so to speak? And I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. It's just, like you said, Rich, it's a giant tease. And
It is.
I think I would personally pay, $3, $4, or $5 just for a World Cup tournament mode. I don't care if it's just in that one stadium. I'll play every game in that stadium. Just give me the mode. Just give me the tournament to play in. So I at least feel like I don't know. It just feels like that. It feels like I'm like being handed a piece of like apple pie, just a small piece, and saying I can't have the rest, and it really that's frustrating.
All right. Well, hopefully, what will not be frustrating for those of us who love sports games is going to be E3 2014, because unlike it seems like every other game that could possibly come out, none of our games are going to be delayed. And not only are they not going to be delayed, but we're going to see actual real gameplay from several games, including Madden and FIFA and potentially NBA and probably NHL. So let's go around the horn. First of all, Brian Weedeye, what are you expecting from the known games? What are you expecting us to see this year at E3 2014?
I think it's going to be fairly a flat kind of E3. There's stuff they can throw up there that EA will throw up there, and I'm not sure how much people actually buy into that anymore. We had the discussion on the podcast about that. How much do you believe that you actually hear at E3 now? How much do you believe out of what you see at E3 when it comes to Madden trailers and stuff like that, which don't end up looking like the actual game that comes out a few months later? So the conferences, I'm not sure we're going to get anything monumental out of the conferences. There's going to be the obvious stuff. Here's a feature for this game. Here's a feature for this game. Look at the amazing visuals in this game. And but is it going to be anything earth-shattering? I don't get that sense. You're going to have the presence of all the games, and there's going to be news, but I don't get the feeling that this is going to be a big E3. We had a couple of years ago, last year, UFC, and I didn't hear about that until the morning of.
We had the UFC PowerPoints last year on the show floor. There was no gameplay; it was just PowerPoints.
Yeah, and so I don't know if there's a new game announcement in the cards, but we talked about things like, could EA's golf game make a showing? Could there be, if they have a front man? It's not going to be Phil Mickelson now, but if they have a front man for it, that person could appear or something. It seems a little early to do much more than that for the golf game. But Madden, NHL, FIFA is an interesting one to me because they haven't talked about FIFA 15 yet, and that's because of the World Cup game, and it's because of the World Cup Ultimate Team, and because World Cup starts next week, that they want to capitalize on all those things before they start promoting the next game. It's almost like the next-gen situation being a couple months after the current-gen games came out, where it's a delicate balance in promoting it. You don't want to put down the current games that are out there, but you want to get people excited about the one that's coming out down the line. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be anything big out of the show. I know there are rumors and stuff, but I've not heard anything substantiated about any of that.
Wow, I'm surprised. I don't think anybody's expecting there to be ridiculous, over-the-top proclamations or video. We all have the new consoles. We've all been playing the games for a while. They're all out there with the exception of NHL. I think everybody's expecting better looking, more better looking versions, smarter versions of what we know about. So I would be surprised if there's any sort of related to the games that the games we know about, Madden, NBA, NHL, and so on. I'd be surprised if anybody's expecting any sort of monumental announcements there. I mean, Chris Sander, what do you think we're going to hear about the games we know about? Sort of, the big four of Madden, NBA, NHL, and FIFA.
Well, having all of the pre-press release stuff already in hand, I know exactly what's going to be announced, so let me carefully tiptoe through this and answer this question carefully without breaking any kind of NDA. You are going to hear, you've got a Madden screenshot out there today, which literally OS, like the first 3 or 4 responses were asking if it was CGI. So, that's a good step when the game looks that good that people are doubting that it's actually a legit looking screen, it's a legit screenshot. So, I can say that game does look that good. You're going to hear about some. I'm trying to think of a good word to throw. It's basically refinement across the board. There's a lot of refinement going on across all the games. You're seeing a lot of very much improved lighting across the board as far as graphics go, gameplay, a lot of refinements to how the games play. EA seems very aware of how their games are weak or where they're weak at, and they're addressing those. So that's all good stuff right there. Otherwise, this E3 is it's basically it's the match at WrestleMania following the super hot match in the middle of the card. Last year's E3 was full of excitement, intrigue. This E3 will seem completely lame compared to that one just because of that. But it'll be a pretty normal E3. You'll get just enough information to get you excited if you're a fan of these games, and I don't see anything majorly groundbreaking coming out of. There's nothing groundbreaking coming out of this E3. I don't think it's just going to be a lot of the expected stuff that you have come to expect from these kind of media events.
All right. So, am I supposed to be happy about that or outraged about?
Yeah,
that?
I was gonna say, how exciting is it? We're refining this game this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to get people thrilled. Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? People have complained for years about all sports games that they're marketed as back-of-the-box features that are added to the game while ignoring problems that have existed for years. And I'm not talking just about Madden. I'm talking about NBA. I'm talking about the show. I'm talking about really all sports games. So by ignoring and not having 15 back-to-the-box brand new features like, fight for the fumble or the LeBron James mode or whatever, by focusing on pure gameplay, isn't that what we want? It's certainly what I want. I'll tell you that. As somebody who spends hours and hours and hours every week playing these games, to me that is exciting. TJ Lauerman, am I crazy? Or not?
Well, your sanity is completely off the table on this subject, but yeah, it always feels like they try to do something. Here's this huge new thing that's coming out, and we're going to focus on that. We're just going to kind of push everything else to the side, and we'll make it a little bit better. But if now this year they can focus on bringing everything up to next gen, all the graphics last year for the new consoles were a step up, but they weren't what everybody was expecting next gen was going to look like, and we've seen with the picture of Kaepernick, maybe Madden's going to look really amazing this year. And if all the games can take a good step, at least visually, and fix some of the lingering problems that they've had in the past, I think that could be a really good thing for gamers, even though if it's just a little boring.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? So I think we all agree that Madden fundamentally was stronger on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. The blocking was better, for example, which went a long way towards making the game better. NBA 2K14 had a lot of core gameplay features that just made it play stronger, but it has a lot of room to move. MLB The Show on the PS4 continues to be a revelation to me as to how much better it is the more that I play it. FIFA is wonderful. So to me, again, Rich Grisham, as a guy who plays these all the time against my friends, further core refinements to the game that don't get people that aren't into these games excited, but get the people that I play with excited, and ultimately will make my experience that much better without the need for a whole lot of new modes or some flashy stuff. If it looks better and plays better, to me that's awesome. Brian, you seem to be ready to disagree with that.
Well, I think generally it's more about the method of promotion for these games. Is that something they get up on stage at an E3 and tout? No, that's something they blog about. They try to reach a certain segment of people,
Right.
that segment of people that care about it. So is, hey, we're refining blocking. Yeah, that was actually part of E3 last year. That was more of a on display type thing than a conference type thing. So you may get more of that information off of the show floor, but the press conferences are where they tend to throw the flashy stuff up, because that has to generally appeal to the wider audience, as opposed to, they're trying to bring in more people to buy the games through those conferences and by creating the hype, and then they can attack the more hardcore people by going after them with that kind of information and that kind of improvement, just a different way. And that's why I think you tend to settle on these big, back of the box type features announced at E3, but there's more going on there, and it's just the method in which they distribute that information.
But here's the thing, and we all know it. Everybody knows it, not just us here, but everybody knows that the hype on the E3 stage are all lies. They're all lies.
Well, I'll tell you I don't know if they care. If it's a lie, do they really care when every video game website is going to post about it?
But here's
it's going to be a video of Kobe shooting the ball in NBA with the PlayStation Move, which is something nobody's going to do.
Right.
Has anybody called to play with Kinect?
They're going to use the virtual reality thing.
Exactly.
Use the virtual reality thing next.
Here we go. What if this year they tell the truth? Let's talk crazy for a second here. What if this year they tell the truth? What if this year, instead of Joe Montana, one of the greatest football quarterbacks of all time, looking like an idiot calling plays with the Kinect, what if they don't do that? What if they don't talk about using smart glass to call, plays and so? What if they just get on stage and for 2 minutes show how blocking is even better and how defensive backs react more intelligently to what's happening on the field, and how a wide receiver can push off a little bit if he has a certain rating, and how if you really don't know what the right defense to call in this type of play is, you can press a button and see what the world thinks you should do here. What if they just tell the truth about what they're really doing?
Rich,
don't you think that would get people much more excited than all of the bull that they've been feeding us for the last 10 years?
They can't tell the truth in 2 minutes. That's the problem. They can't define these things and actually convince people of it in 2 minutes.
Chris Sanner, have I lost my mind?
Rich, I'm sorry to say that I think old age has caught up with you, my friend.
With all of us.
Yeah, we're all starting to really get up there. But no, I think that honestly, if you had a couple of minutes just showing a couple of these interactions, and honestly, from what I know about where they're focusing on this year's game, they may very well do something similar to that, because the big back-of-the-box feature, we all know that they're working on defense. That is public knowledge. That is the crux of their big back-of-the-box features this year. So I could see that being like, other than the play calling community, whatever. That's going to be the most. That's a feature that will be here today, gone tomorrow, almost instantly. 2 features from now, that won't even be in the game.
One.
Yeah, the play calling, global play calling. That's one of those features that you see put in the game. 2 years later, it's gone. Never to be seen again.
Madden 35, it'll be on a screen.
But here's my point.
Time we did that? It was great.
But here's my point. Like, what gets people that play these games, that spend their money on the games, are real fundamental improvements. NBA 2K14 has one of the best-selling games of the next generation console titles, right?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that it sells so well is because it's basketball and people love basketball. Another reason it sells so well is that looks amazing, right? And another reason is because it plays great. Like, VC issues aside, busted online aside, like those problems have subsided, and a lot of people are still playing the games and buying the games today. FIFA
Rich,
is a great example of a title that sells massively, and a lot of the people who play FIFA understand it really fundamentally well. And I guarantee you that if you got on stage and in 2 minutes listed 10 real things that they actually make better that have nothing to do with the back of the box and everything about gameplay, you would generate more excitement and more goodwill if you do that. Chris Sander, you were about to say something.
Yeah, EA would be smart this year, and when they're presenting Madden, I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but they would be smart to show Madden NFL 25 and Madden NFL 15 side by side, the entire presentation doing the exact same thing, because Madden NFL 25, just the lighting improvements and really just everything across the board, visually, the game looks much, much, much better. That in of itself, if you just show off the new things they've done. I'm trying to be very careful here not to break an NDA here, but the new things they have done, if you show that off, you are going to be in really good shape as far as goodwill with the fans. If that should be their strategy, is just to show them both side by side, show both games in action, show what last year's game did, what this year's game is doing. You're going to create a lot of goodwill doing that.
Again, the more I think about it, and in sports games in particular, because we're getting these games and we're getting them in a few months, and doing anything other than hyperbole, I think works it works against you. But in particular with these games, I think if they're just honest with what they're doing and they show the greatest hits of what they're doing in 2 minutes, will generate more goodwill. Like you saw today, I don't know if you guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about the screenshot, right? But the screenshot that came out for Madden, people who like Madden looked at it and for the most part were like, hey, that's pretty cool. I like that. Hey, look, there's tattoos. It looks pretty cool. I like how that looks. And if you look on the NeoGaf thread, 90% of the posts are like, that's terrible, that's stupid, that's idiotic. You're not going to get people who don't like sports games into sports games anymore. Like, that ship has sailed. To me,
they keep trying, though.
Well, and you have to a degree. Like, I understand it because you want to grow your business. But the sales have shrunk, and I think the reason the sales have shrunk is that there's a core group of people that have just sort of been left out. And if you add more and more just, subtleties that if you haven't played a Madden in 2 or 3 years and you pop in Madden 25 on the PS4, you're like, wait a second, this is actually pretty good. I like this. And then if you keep adding to that, I think that's how you do it. Yeah. How you do it properly.
Their solution though tends to be now, well, we're losing sales every year. Let's get more money out of the people who do buy the game.
That's true.
That's the way they're going at it now. And it's like, okay, well, let's get people into Ultimate Team. Let's put VC everywhere through the game. And
they're still pumping out Ultimate Team stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we see shorter now promotion schedules. I don't know what's going on with Madden's, but I mean, when these games, they're still trying to milk people out of money for the entirety of the year. They don't want those people to say, okay, well, now I'm done with the game. I'm just going to wait for Madden 15.
And I don't blame them either, right? I mean, we're still playing our online franchise. Granted, EA's getting no money out of us from that, but it's still fun, and we're still talking about it. So there's some value to that. All right. So we talked about the games that we know that are coming. We talked about this a little bit on the last show, but let's go a little bit further. Any other E3 predictions? This tweet comes to us from Papernut. TJ Lauerman, you had a terrific plan for what you wanted, what you were predicting to come from EA, which involved not only. Well, why don't you just reprise your E3 prediction for us this evening, sir?
You would like a new word drawing?
Yeah, let's see that.
Well, I don't know if you remember what I said.
I do remember, sir. I remember.
I kind of do want some of it to come true. I would love to see the Stadium Series put into NHL 15. That would be kind of cool with the
absolutely.
With the wind on the jerseys and stuff and all those stadiums. That would be pretty awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, dual purpose. I mean, you have the stadiums made if you're going to do that. Might as well put some baseball players in there and make MVP. I mean, that seems like it would be easy. That's like 4 or 5 lines of code to put some baseball players on a field. And
yeah, absolutely.
Simple stuff. I mean, that would be cool if we get MVP. Even if Konami brought over the Japanese game, which even if they did, I wouldn't get excited if you were an Xbox fan because they've already gone PlayStation only last generation. So that would be really hilarious if Konami brought over their baseball game and it was PlayStation only. I think I would laugh pretty hard about that.
So,
but the one I feel most confident about is I think we're really going to see something out of the EA Golf team. Usually all this E3 stuff is, we're looking at stuff now at E3 for next fall for non-sports games,
right.
and that becomes May 2016.
Yeah.
So I think if golf is going to come out, assuming the normal time slot back in the April-May time, and since UFC is not going to be a yearly release, that seems like the perfect time that golf would come out. Now would be a good time to throw it out there and start talking about it a little. But hopefully.
You got a non-Big Four E3 prediction, Brian Weedeye?
Yeah, how about... I was going to say, how about they scrap NBA Live and make it a Lego game?
I'd be down with that.
It's actually something EA has considered in the past, not with NBA Live, but to make Lego versions of sports games. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would kind of solve an arcade type of thing.
As a father of a 6-year-old who loves Legos, I am totally down for that.
I don't know why it never materialized, actually. Maybe it was another thing like NFL doesn't... It's a bad image for the NFL to have Lego guys and pieces falling off of them. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but I know that was a consideration. But yeah, I don't really have a prediction... like anything I would predict would probably not come true. So there's no point to really doing it. I predict a lot of people will be disappointed. That's guaranteed to be right.
Brian Weedeye, a.k.a. Debbie Downer. My goodness gracious. It's going to be flat.
Hey,
I'm going to be disappointed.
If I do anything, I like to lower people's expectations so they're not too disappointed. If you go in, and then you can be surprised if something does happen. Awesome. I mean, there's nothing we would want more than some new game announcement or something.
Absolutely.
So great, but don't go in there thinking, okay, and like waiting on the edge of your seat for something that's probably not going to happen.
Chris Sander, give us a prediction for E3 not involving the Big Four sports games that you either think we'll see or you would love to see that is maybe even plausible.
Well, Rich, we all know the game that's going to be announced. Haven't you been reading Twitter the last 2 weeks? We all know that one's coming, so let's just skip through that one. No, the only plausible game that I could see being announced, and I don't even think it's really plausible, even when you really put some thought into it, would be a Konami baseball game. They have everything there; it's ready to go. Just plug in, the MLB teams, and you've got yourself a game. But
five lines of code, just fine.
Yeah, just fine.
The English language is literally 1 line of code. I've googled it.
It's true. You just got to load the file, the language file. Come on, it's easy.
It's a text file.
Easy. I mean, these are small things, but I'm interested to see. I guess I don't have any specific predictions because I think that it's going to be a fairly predictable E3. I think anybody expecting any huge new groundbreaking announcement. I mean, there are people assuming these announcements are coming. I cannot wait to read the comments on OS and on Monday and Tuesday. You have no idea how much fun that's going to be to see how many people. I don't know. It's just it's fun seeing people take internet rumors and run with them. But
it's video games. Don't take it that seriously. It's like we cover it as a business, but man, don't it's live your life.
It's going to be fun. The one thing I want to see this E3. And this is something that is becoming very interesting to me. I want to see what the mobile/indie market is going to be doing with sports this year, because I think that there is definitely a market with all these holes developing in our genre from the big developers. There is a market developing for someone in the indie/mobile development market to start filling those.
Agreed.
And I think that it's not impossible, not crazy to see one of these developers come out with something that will be the talk of the show. I don't know. I mean, it obviously can't rival something that's, it wouldn't be an NCAA football from EA Sports. It's coming back kind of thing. But someone that has an idea that will fill one of those holes, that will get people buzzing. I could see that being something that's one of the talks of this show.
You almost completely stole my desire. I don't predict that it's going to happen, because we have had him on the show a couple of times, and it's a one-man shop. But, oh my goodness, if they announced a PlayStation 4/Xbox One version of New Star Soccer, I would be all over it. New Star Soccer remains one of my all-time favorite sports games, console or not. I play it all the time. Just played it yesterday. It is spectacular, and if they could ever, and granted, it got its start on the PC, so it's not, completely implausible. If like as part of like the Sony indie program or the Xbox indie program, they brought New Star Soccer to the consoles, that would be amazing. Now, granted, one of the main features of the game on the phones and the iPads of the touch would need to be reworked, but you could easily do that with, easily 5 lines of code. You could easily do that with a controller.
The screen I got, Rich.
There you go. It's exactly. I believe the technical term for that, TJ, is the Madden timeout button.
Madden timeout button.
Right?
Do all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So
wait, Rich, you're missing the best game that we're going to talk about. WWE 2K15. Let's see what 2K Sports can do now that they have the game actually under their control. Because last year was kind of just an upgrade to the Ukes game. Hopefully they're redoing it, making it better. I don't know. Let's see. Hopefully they come out and show us something cool.
Well, they are going to be there. The game is going to be, I don't know if the game is going to be on the show floor, but they certainly are going to be there. The WWE 2K15 brand is going to be there. I've chatted with a couple of guys that are excited about what they have coming out. I mean, TJ, you're pumped for this game, I presume, right?
I'm excited, very disappointed, though. They're putting it out 1 week too late.
When does it come out?
The Tuesday after the Extra Life charity marathon.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. So then I'm not going to want to play that game, because I will be done with video games for at least a week after playing them for 24 straight hours.
Oh. All right. We've gotten enough tweets about it. We've gotten enough emails. We've gotten enough comments. We have to talk about the elephant in the room. Is there any chance that NFL 2K is revived at E3 this year, Chris Sanner?
Is it possible to have a negative percent? Negative below 0? Is that possible? Is that mathematically possible? Because I think that's what I would assign it. I actually don't want to say that, because in the off chance it is, I want to at least look like I gave it a chance. So a 0.01% chance that it happens.
Brian, any chance?
First of all, when we say we don't like the chances of this happening, it's not because we don't want it to happen. I get the sense that like you say, hey, this rumor is unsubstantiated. The rumor's been there every year for the past 4 years. When you say stuff like that, people reply like, oh, so you just want Madden is all you want. Like, what? No.
Let me be very clear. Okay, let me be as clear as you can possibly be.
Well, we
want NFL 2K.
Well, we don't even necessarily have to want that. We want more competition, regardless of who's making it, just to give us options.
Absolutely.
Guys, you guys are missing the point here. We don't want NFL 2K. We love Madden. We don't want no other games. We love just one game. In fact, we loathe great games. That is our passion, is to have sports games be as mediocre as possible.
And as no matter what. As few as possible.
Honestly, I cannot wait. I've heard rumors that this E3 we're actually going to combine NHL and NBA, because they're already in the same calendar year. We're just going to put them on the same. I mean, we're just going to keep combining these games, and so.
Yeah. So when it goes to the chances of it, is it possible? Like, let's just say, is it possible? I started talking about this right after the news of the deal with EA being extended, and that EA refused to address the topic of exclusivity.
Right.
So is it possible? We look at other things like the way EA is promoting Madden is different this year versus every other year. they're more restrictive on the information. They're holding back farther. Is it possible that something is coming in that space? Is there going to be another football game? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Would E3 be where it was announced? Now, if it was an NFL 2K, you have to say, why would NFL 2K's return be announced at a Microsoft press conference or a Sony press conference? Because Take-Two doesn't have their own press conference like EA does. So then you get into theories like, well, maybe it'll be Xbox exclusive, which is now a theory going around, which seems even more far-fetched because the NFL does not want to restrict people to one console. You can say, hey, Microsoft has this deal with the NFL, though. Yeah, but I mean, they want to expand beyond that, obviously. So, is it possible? Is there any inclination to believe that it's going to happen at this E3? No, there's no reason to believe that. But can you hold out hope at this point? I think you can, but it may not be the wisest decision.
Can I ask a crazy question?
Go ahead.
The NFL is super locked down about their using the shield and all the teams and all the players and stuff, right? After seeing what happened between 2K and MLB, where they kind of just let the franchise flounder for 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how far you want to go back, wouldn't the NFL kind of be like, yeah, we like what Madden's doing, and we just don't think you could do it?
No, and here's why. Because they would also then look at what 2K has done with the NBA in demolishing the competition and being by far the best-selling sports game and be like, yeah, that's what they can do if they're really given the opportunity. Because NBA 2K is a monster. It's an absolute monster. It's the only game that I know that that goes across genres and gets a lot of different people talking about it. Because yes, we've talked about how complex and difficult NBA 2K14 is at the second and the third level, but at the top level with NBA 2K, if you know the pass button and the shoot button and the turbo button, you can play the game and you can play it very effectively, and it looks amazing. And the NBA translates very well to video games. You instantly recognize who LeBron James is and who James Harden is and who Serge Ibaka is and who Kevin Durant is, and they have all the player mannerisms down so well. I think they look at what NBA 2K is and they go the opposite direction. They go, man, look what they've done with NBA. They could really do something. Here's why I don't think we'll see NFL 2K at E3 or any time in the near future, and it has to do with simple logistics. And believe me, I would love to see it. I echo you, Brian. We want competition. We want multiple games. We want more options. And we want, frankly, completely selfishly, we want more stuff to write about and to talk about, okay? And to produce content for and to stream. The infrastructure you have to create to build a football game that would be worthy of being on a next-generation console is massive. The art that you need to build stadiums and fields and players and uniforms and helmets is thousands of hours. And to build it from scratch, because NFL, 2K doesn't have that infrastructure. They have some baseball stadiums left over from MLB on the last generation consoles.
No, not to mention too, Rich, that then you're not entering a market where you're on your own. You're entering a market where Madden, no matter how good the game is at the start, Madden is going to outsell it for a few years. That's just the way it would be, whether it was even a better game or not. You can't just disappear for 10 years. Like there's a faction of people out there who love NFL 2K, and that's great. But the vast majority of people, it's in their distant memory. It's 10 years ago.
That's right.
It's a whole new generation of people playing video games that maybe never even played that one.
And
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions. You can answer silently because it's a pretty logical progression. Okay, 10 years ago, Madden NFL 05 versus NFL 2K5. Those games, by all intents and purposes, both had strengths and weaknesses. Madden beat NFL 2K in many areas, especially on the field. So let's think about that. Okay, so Madden NFL 05 to some people is actually better than NFL 2K5. That back in those days it was better.
And it was $20.
Well, that's very arguable, by the way. That is extremely arguable. There are people that will fight you to the death over certain aspects of that. So I don't want to let you just say that without saying that. You say it as a statement. Other people would disagree vehemently with that statement.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that it's a very arguable statement. Those games were at least in the same league. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. So I would agree that they are. Yeah. You didn't have one that was light years ahead of the others on either side.
Okay. Now picture this. Madden NFL 25 came out. Would you play any minute of Madden NFL 05 versus Madden NFL 25? Would you go back and play Madden 05 at any point?
Absolutely not. Nope.
Now think about that. That's how far NFL 2K5 is behind Madden at this point. It is that far. It is that far on the field behind.
Not necessarily true. They have what they built for All Pro Football 2K8, which, again, there's a lot of arguments, but many people would say that the core football game was strong. It was everything else about the game, the fact that there were no licensed teams, the fact that there was no franchise mode, the fact that there was just not a whole lot of game there where that game struggled. So I talk about the art. Just building the art assets is a massive effort to make them in the next generation high definition, and then you would have to, at best, start with the core engine of All Pro Football 2K8 and bring that up to speed, and then try to make that be a functional football game. The effort to do just those two things, not even trying to build in all of the massive logic you have for franchise or whatever sort of other types of modes you want. You're talking about I'm thinking you're talking about a minimum of a 3-year effort. Minimum to get something that would be representative. They would have had to have been working on this for at least 2 full years.
I don't think
logistically they'll be in a position, even if they wanted to do it. And then there's the business decision, right? Strauss-Zelnick has been very clear that he only wants to build property, and he's the CEO of Take-Two Interactive. He has been very clear that he only wants to build intellectual property that is his to own. He inherited NBA 2K. He opportunistically bought the WWE when Acclaim went under. I believe they got it from Acclaim. So there are exceptions to that rule. So NFL could be an exception. But boy, a whole lot of stuff, time, effort, and business sense that doesn't add up to now would have to come together for NFL 2K to exist. Chris Sander, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, it's fine. What I was building up to there is that there is no way like a theoretical NFL 2K15. Let's just say it is announced. Let's just assume it is. There's no way that game is not going to disappoint people. I mean, the expectations, the hype, the build up to that game would be so enormous, so immense. I don't think there's any way that game could not disappoint people.
I like where we're at right now. I was called the downer earlier, and now we're talking about disappointment for games that don't exist.
Exactly. So
we're sure there's going to be a ton of disappointment for this game that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, this thing has been built up to be like the most perfect football game of all time. And I just, in a theoretical world where this thing even existed, which, I mean, I definitely feel it does not. I just do not feel there's any way it's not going to meet those expectations.
You'd have the same thing if MVP baseball came back. I mean,
So
it's not an NFL 2K thing either. It's just you can't live up to these nostalgic expectations that you sit here and you're like 10 years ago, oh man, this game was great. It doesn't happen overnight.
Well, I mean, guys, we're focusing on the wrong game. NHL 2K coming back.
What?
That's the game that we need back. That game was so fun. Pond hockey, you guys remember that? Slap shot?
Zambonis? Yeah. Remember the Zambonis? Yeah.
Oh my God. I'd rather have that than some football game.
All right. So I think we've any last thoughts on E3, Brian Weedeye?
I'm happy I'm not going this year.
And
Yeah.
by the way, this crew you see right here, the four of us are going to be doing some live streams after the conferences on probably Sunday and Monday at least, perhaps on Tuesday as well, so we can read and react to all the different things. And when NFL 2K15 is announced, you will all have egg on your faces.
Man,
Or
we
so
will.
you hope.
Hey, you know, if another game is announced, that's great. That's great. I don't
Yes, it would be.
You know, we're not rooting against it to be right here.
Definitely not.
We're just
Definitely
saying
not.
we don't have any information that leads us to believe that this is going to happen.
All right, last thing I want to talk about for a few minutes. Cristiano, you mentioned you're playing a ton of the show. Brian, you and TJ and I, along with our good friend Pete Dodd, are playing in an online franchise. I want to talk about this for a few minutes. I love the show on the PS4, and every day I play it, I love it more. There's some weird stuff I want to talk about, but Cristiano, you mentioned you've been playing a lot of the show. What are you playing? And it sounds like you are kind of nuts about it, like I am. Is that true?
Yes, I am playing a franchise, and the reason is because, I mean, we've talked about this before. I love managing baseball teams. I love managing the rosters, making trades, although I guess I'm going to have to decide after this first season. I don't know if you can change the setting or not, but somehow injuries are not on. I don't know how this happened, but injuries are not on, and I want
I'm
to.
not having that problem, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been sitting here like, man, I'm having the most fortunate team ever. I have not had any injuries. And then I look around the league and I look on the DLs, and I'm like, oh, dang, that's a wonder. So and I want to take this franchise with me. Like, I want to take this into future, games. That's what I'm writing about on my column this weekend. And this is like, it's going to be heartbreaking if I have to go back and replay this season just because of that. But I am so nuts about this game. It is ridiculous. I'm actually almost to September on my first year now.
Wow. So we are playing, TJ, Brian, and I, we are playing a online franchise, again, as I mentioned with Pete Dodd. I never thought that I would be as captivated by something as I have been by our MLB franchise. We are not, very few of, and Gus Ramsey just joined as well from ESPN. We're not playing each other very much in most cases at all, but we're sort of all participating in this MMO. Really, it's a baseball MMO, and just because I'm playing in the league with you guys, every game that I'm playing, which has been for the most part intense, in fact today I played one of the most intense games, it has been just so much more fun than I was expecting it to be. I've been trying to play at least one game every day. I've been really working hard in the games to manage them properly. Been enjoying reading about your different games. I mean, Brian Weeder, have you been enjoying it as much as I have? Some of the issues aside we're going to talk about for a minute before we close it out, but have you been enjoying just participating in it as much as I have?
It's definitely more interesting when you're in that universe with other people. Just like this morning, I went through and I was just looking at stats and seeing like, damn, TJ has twice as many home runs as I do, twice as many doubles, and like he just probably is legitimately that much better than me. He's also 7-0 or something, and I'm 4-5. So yeah, there's issues within it that we'll talk about, but. I mean, being in there with you guys, it makes me want to play more, and it makes me care more about the outcomes, because I'm like, if I get a win with Felix, I'm like, all right, Felix Hernandez, a win. Now they're going to see he's 2-0, and look, now I got 4 saves with Fernando Rodney. Awesome, they're going to see that, and so yeah, it definitely adds to the experience.
TJ Lauerman having the same sort of experience?
No, Rich. I wish I could get a save with my closer. I'm blowing out all these teams left and right. It's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, I'm loving it. It's the same thing with our Madden League. It's the people you play with that make the game that much more special than just playing the game itself. So getting to see Gus's emails on anything are epic. So
yes, that's
more
true.
of those in my life. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. The thing about it is, number one, we're playing in this universe where, we're all participating. But number two, the game itself is great. Like, it's really just flat out great. Like, I played a game today, and I took the Dodgers because the Mets are awful, and I want to give myself a chance to at least win some games. And I'm the Dodgers, and today I was playing the rubber game of the series against the Giants. They won in Game 1. 1-0. I won in game 2, and then in game 3, played the game. I scored a run in the first, a run in the second. They got 2 in the third. I got 1 in the sixth. I was doing what I call the Tony La Russa thing. I'm going lefty, righty, lefty, like really working the bullpen. I made it to the ninth inning and gave up a 2-out single to tie the game. And then with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, I pinch hit for my pitcher. And on an 0-2 count, I waited and timed it right and boom, hit a home run over the wall to win the game. It was so great, and it was so much greater because I'm playing, as I mentioned, in this league with you guys. The games are intense. The only thing that is really not cool is that the online franchise sim logic is broken. Because I mentioned I played a 3-game series with the Giants. In game 1, Madison Bumgarner pitched against me. And he pitched against me in game 3 as well on 1-day rest because the logic is screwed up. Brian Weedeye, there's what other? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff that happens in this online franchise.
Yeah. So the series I just played, 3-game series against the Angels, and Jared Weaver started all 3 games for the Angels. And so he started the first game. They won that game by a run or something. Started the second game, and I'm like, wait a second, didn't he pitch that last game? I had to wait till the game was over to check that to remember if it was him. But I was like, well, his energy bar is kind of low there, so it must have been him. And then the third game, he starts again, and he's got like no energy to start with. I didn't knock him around. He only lasted 2 innings. I scored 1 run off him. I got some solid hits off him, but it wasn't like I was crushing him.
Yeah.
And they yanked him because of that. They just yanked him because he was dead after 2 innings. And so there's other issues with fatigue too. Like I'll have relievers who I haven't pitched with in a while with low fatigue levels, and then guys who I've used a couple straight games still at like perfect fatigue. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with how the fatigue is handled and how the CPU deals with choosing its starters, apparently.
Has the fatigue disappeared on the lineups for you guys? Because
I see it on my pitchers. I don't look on position players.
Yeah, I don't look on position players either.
Weird. I could have swore it was there, and I'm pretty sure it's there in one of my other franchises. I felt like it was there before we started doing this SimQ stuff, and stuff got all wonky when all that stuff started to happen.
Yeah, and this is an experimental online franchise. We're doing a 30-game season, and there's other weird stuff too. Like I'm the Dodgers, and you would think in a 30-game season I would basically just play my division teams and maybe a couple of other National League teams, but instead I'm playing the Tigers in a 3-game series and the Twins in a 3-game series, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's a 30-game season, so just the fact that you can even set it to 30 games, I think, is
this
probably
is the first 30 games of the season.
It is the first 30 games.
That would make a lot of sense, I think.
I don't know.
I don't know if it really
I'm
is,
so sick of playing the Angels and the A's. Yeah, I know the Mariners started with the Angels, but man, my first 12 games are against the Angels and the A's. I'm so tired of facing Mike Trout and Albert Pujols and Cespedes, and they're just crushing me. It's like impossible to get through that part of the lineup. I'm like, give me a crappy team. Come on, I see Houston on the schedule coming up. I'm like, yes.
And that's another thing is the computer isn't smart enough to fix its rosters. So you probably haven't faced Josh Hamilton, right?
No, he's been in for the Angels.
He's been there?
Yeah.
Because I had Lance Lynn in the minors, Rich had Matt Kemp in the minors. Everybody that was injured to start the season was still down and hasn't been called up.
Yeah, I've been facing him. He's been in weird spots in the lineup. I think he was batting second against a few times and batting sixth a few times. But
yeah, I had Matt Kemp for some reason in single A, and then in the first game of the year, Chris Sander, Carl Crawford blew out his knee, so he's getting carted off, and I'm playing for 3 or 4 games with a bunch of guys named Joe, and then TJ is like, hey, look, I found this dude in single A, and I look, and there's Matt Kemp in single A, so I bring him up. I mean,
what kind of a GM is not checking out their minor leagues every day to see what's
That's
going
the first thing I did, by the way, and
I play the game. So, Chris, any of this weirdness happening for you and your franchise, or is yours operating well and you're just rocking and rolling through?
other than the fact that the AI is like one of the most wheeling and dealing AIs in the history of mankind. Some of the trades, I swear Ian Kinsler has been on 3 teams. I'm pretty sure I've seen his name pop up in at least 3 trades. I don't even know where he's at anymore. But other than that, I mean, there are some little things that I see. The big thing is that I think that, well, for me, I guess I somehow turned injuries off. I hope that's not a bug of some kind, and my franchise is just ruined forever. It probably is. I probably can't change it. Why I can't, in a game that allows you so many other options, why I cannot change that setting, at least in between years, would be like shocking. But I honestly haven't noticed too much wrong, but I also haven't been playing online, obviously, and that mode seems to be where most of the issues are. I mean, I do envy and I do commend Sony for their efforts to realistically simulate the 1890s baseball experience with that three straight starting, but I just don't think that's for me.
Yeah. The other... Oh, go ahead.
We must, because I feel like we forget about it every time. We must commend the Operation Sports forums for putting these rosters together.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing.
Yes.
Anybody that works in that, you're doing God's work.
It's true.
I wouldn't have Oscar
Yes,
Tavares hitting grand slams in his first at-bat without them, and I appreciate them very much, and I just want to say thank you. Now they have the hybrid rosters out. I'm excited. I love it all.
It's true. It is true.
It makes the franchise process much better. MK Knight is I don't even know what to say. He should win an Oscar, a Grammy, Emmy, something, maybe all 3. I'm not sure.
An EGOT. You can get the EGOT.
So, last thing I do want to say again, we're talking a lot of positively about MLB The Show, as we should. It is an astoundingly good game. But TJ and I have been trying to play our 7-game series, and it's getting tougher and tougher because now we've had a couple of disconnections. The last game
spoke too soon on earlier podcasts, Rich.
We did. The last game that we played, TJ was trouncing me pretty good, and we had a disconnection. 2 games before that, I was trouncing TJ pretty good. We had a disconnection, and
the first one was a disconnect. The second one was the game crapped out on you, right? You got the blue screen thing, and
yeah, the first time you got the crash, the second time I got the crash. Doesn't matter. Game's crashing. We're gonna try to give it another go, but it's getting a little harder to get the will up to play through the 7-game series. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just going to say, when I'm playing and I'm down by a lot too, my internet really typically craps out as well. When I'm down by several runs, my internet just
that happened to me a lot recently.
Yeah.
We were live streaming. I would not do that. I have lost far too many games on the internet to be a rage quitter. Trust me. Besides, I would only put me down 3-2. I'm only going to rage quit when it's like the bottom of the 9th and I'm down by 7 in Game 6 or Game 7. I know when to rage quit.
Okay. In your advanced years, Rich, I do trust you that you know when to rage quit. You're over the impulsive need to do it when you're only in game 1 or 2.
That's exactly
but he's just laying down the groundwork for later. Then he'll be like, "Oh, it's the game's fault that it went out. It wasn't me."
Hey,
that is true. That's very thoughtful of you, Rich.
So then in the first crash when I was up by 3 runs in the 4th inning and
things happen. I can't.
Rich, 2 words: plausible deniability.
There you go. I love it. All right. Well, hey, this has been a show. We went a little longer than we were expecting to, but hey, this has been a lot of fun. I want to say thank you to the great Brian Weedai. Thank you to the great TJ Lyman. Thank you to the great Chris Sanner for joining us this evening on the Hangout. I want to say
TJ has a plug you got to do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I want to do, Rich.
You stepped all over it.
Let him go. Rich is one of the greatest podcast hosts I've ever known in my life.
I was afraid he was just going to go off and end it and then just walk off.
Nope.
Throw his headphones down and just walk off.
One of the things that you need to do every day, like I do, is visit pastapadre.com. Brian posts every single day. Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, it does not matter.
Yeah, my hated birthday. Yeah.
Holidays of all religions.
Another thing you need to do is visit Operation Sports every single day. Not only are they the benefactors of the Press Row podcast, but our friend right here, Chris Sanner, is writing like a maniac about all the stuff happening, and we'll be covering E3 like a hawk. and I want you to make sure that you are around for our live hangouts the week of E3, Sunday night, Monday night at least, and maybe more. And the other thing I want you to do is go visit That Sports Gamer, and That Sports Gamer, TJ Lauerman, is launching a brand new franchise. TJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Rich, you may have noticed and brought it up every single time I talk to you. ThatSportsGamer.com has been a little slow on the updates recently. About 2 months ago, sometime around PAX East, I started thinking about doing some extra episodes of That Sports Gamer show, and I wanted to do some stuff with gamers who ended up creating video games. And then I took that idea and I started expanding on it. So I started gamer2creator.com. I literally just turned the site active about 10 minutes ago, so people can go to it right now.
During the show.
During the show?
During the show, I've already got a 1-0 lead in my MLB game. I bought all the cards for the Madden cover vote. We're ready to go. Sports games, 1,000% right now. Yeah. I see a lot of people that say, hey, I want to stream, but I have no idea how to do it. I want to start making YouTube videos, but I have no idea how to do it. I want to do a podcast. I have no idea how to do it. As, obviously, CTO of the Press Row Podcast, I know this stuff. I can help you guys with that. If you want to know why you started streaming on your PS4 and it looks like crap, do you know what your upload speed is? Well, we have posts on that just to give you like the background of what your upload speed is, what it should be. We have how to have the $0 podcast set up over there. A whole bunch of stuff to get you going from a guy that just plays video games to a guy that's generating content about it, starting your own site, starting your own YouTube, starting your own Twitch channel. You can do all that, and I want to help because I know people need an outlet sometimes, and I've started doing it. I love this stuff, and it's awesome. We're going to be launching a new podcast. I'll post that tomorrow with Greg Seward of Generation 16 talking about his workflow, how he does.
Yeah. By the way, Generation 16 is an amazing compilation, amazing show about Sega, the history of Sega and the games. If you have any interest whatsoever in that, you have to go watch it. It's astoundingly good.
Yeah, and some other stuff we got coming up is there's going to be a good post on what could happen if YouTube actually goes through and buys Twitch, how that could affect not only people that watch the videos, but more importantly the people that are making those videos for you, and what net neutrality means to you, not as a consumer, but as a creator who's putting videos out on the internet. Are the people that you want to see it going to be able to see that stuff? It's kind of what it's all about, helping people out.
3.5 words. You're in trouble, but I'm sure you have a lot more to say about that. All right, well, thank you, TJ. Good luck with that. I'm very excited to see how that is. One other thing I want to tell you to do or ask you to do, please, is subscribe to and rate the Press Row Podcast. We have a wonderful number of people who listen to the show, a lot of great folks who support it wonderfully, and we just really hope that you continue to help the show get made. Operation Sports does a terrific job in helping the show get distributed, and we appreciate that, but we couldn't do it without the support of the listeners, so please just go out there, subscribe to it, rate it, make sure that Chris and Steve and the guys from Operation Sports know that you like what we do and that you support it, so we thank you for that. So on behalf of Brian Weedeye from Pasta Padre, Chris Channer from Operation Sports, TJ Lauerman from That Sports Gamer, I am Rich Grisham from the Internet. I want to say thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. And we'll see you again during E3. Cheers.
Pink.